right now on News Channel 8 at 11.
Historic.
Hurricane Michael is the worst storm that the Florida Panhandle has ever seen.
Look at this. This is nature's fury.
Catastrophic. Deadly.
Devastation. This is total devastation.
Hurricane Michael has moved out of Florida, but the process to rebuild the Panhandle in the wake of this awful disaster is only just beginning.
Floridians are strong. Floridians are resilient. We will recover, and we'll do it together.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Lee.
And I'm Keith Kate. Thank you for joining us tonight. We have been keeping a close watch on this Hurricane Michael since it formed. And tonight we are getting a firsthand look at the widespread devastation that it caused. With most roads in the Panhandle impassable right now, the best way to see just how bad the damage is from high above with a drone. Just look at this. Roofs ripped off, building after building destroyed.
The images are absolutely incredible. The bird's eye view, stunning. And on the ground, we continue to see more devastation.
And we have live team coverage tonight from the Panhandle all the way down to Anna Maria Island. We're going to begin with NBC's Wendy Woolfolk, who is live in Tallahassee right now.
We've seen widespread damage and massive power outages, and that's likely to get worse as Michael moves north. Hurricane Michael leaves behind a path of devastation.
Utter destruction. Utter destruction. As I said, there's going to be a lot of good people hurting.
Hurt by the most powerful storm ever to hit the Florida Panhandle.
And I'm trying to clear the roadway for the emergency vehicles to get through.
Every small effort crucial for what will be a monstrous task ahead.
We will be sending help from air, land, and sea. This includes thousands of responders for power restoration, medical search and rescue, law enforcement, food and water distribution.
Critical resources in the aftermath of a catastrophic storm surge. Destructive winds up to 155 miles per hour that ripped off roofs and tore down power lines. And flooding that left neighborhoods under feet of water. But Michael isn't finished.
Hurricane Michael's fierce winds and life-threatening storm surge left behind some extensive damage, as you've seen.
News Channel 8's Corey Davis rode out the storm in Panama City Beach and headed out tonight to get a first-hand look at that devastation.
Right now we are traveling around Panama City with crew members and volunteers with America's Cajun Navy, known for rescuing people. They're telling us that they've already seen houses without roofs and flattened homes as well. The damage after Hurricane Michael around Panama City is disturbing. Power lines down everywhere, scattered around like matchsticks. We hopped on with America's Cajun Navy, the group in town from Lafayette, Louisiana, hoping to help anyone they can. The view from their military-grade vehicle, unbelievable. A Firestone auto shop destroyed. Within minutes, we came across the first person. And then came more, this time a couple with 2 young boys and a friend on a walk more than 14 miles long.
I'm very, very blessed. I'm very thankful. We've been walking long ways. We've been in water up to our waist. It's been crazy out there.
They say part of the roof at the shelter they were staying at ripped off.
It's very bad out there. We just left the shelter, and it's no power. Everything's just, it's real bad.
Right now, breaking news on News Channel 8.
High school terror, chaos, and fear as gunfire erupts at a Florida school. Students barricaded in classrooms. Several reported dead and wounded. One young man now in custody.
I saw like 9 cops just flying by me, and it just made my heart race even more.
Well, if you've been watching News Channel 8 for the past hour or so, you know it is a horrific event that has taken place here. Good evening. I'm Keith Kate.
I'm Jennifer Lee. Thank you for joining us. We begin with that terrible breaking news. A tragic day in South Florida. A gunman opening fire at a high school. Right now, we know at least 14 people have been rushed to the hospital. There are more than 3,200 students who attend Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland. That community is in Broward County, just north of Coral Springs.
Right now on News Channel 8 at 11.
Unthinkable rage unleashed at a South Florida high school.
Oh my God!
Students and teachers ruthlessly shot, many of them killed. Tonight, we're learning disturbing new information about the gunman.
A lot of the kids predicted that, they threw jokes around saying that he would be the one to shoot the school.
And Bay Area connections to the horrific violence.
My stomach dropped to the floor.
Right now, live team coverage of the tragedy in Parkland.
Good evening, I'm Keith Kate.
I'm Jennifer Lee. Thank you for joining us tonight. A school is supposed to be a safe place to send your children to learn, but tonight more than a dozen parents are going through the unimaginable.
A former student returns to his high school and goes on a killing spree. From South Florida to Tampa Bay, we have live team coverage for you tonight. We're going to begin with News Channel 8's John Rogers. He's live in Parkland, that's in Broward County.
Good evening. We're just a few blocks away from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, and it's an eerie scene here. When we pulled in late this evening, we still saw students walking around with their backpacks. This suspect was well known in the school, and he had a bad reputation.
Near the end of the school day, the fire alarm went off at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, and the carnage began. Students were crouched inside classrooms, hiding in closets, or frantically running away.
As soon as the fire drill got pulled, the fire alarm got pulled, and kids were evacuating, I heard 5 pops. And I was like, that's not a drill. It's like, we never did a drill like that.
SWAT team members combed the massive school, while desperate parents tearfully searched for their children. 17 people were killed.
You see it when it happens in other places, but when it's your backyard, when it's your child that's hiding, it's just a little different, It's a very sad day.
The suspect, 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz, was arrested an hour later. He was spotted walking down the street. Officials say he used an AR-15 rifle with numerous magazines. He also had a gas mask and smoke bombs. He was a former student who was expelled for disciplinary reasons.
Honestly, a lot of people were saying that it was going to be him, stuff like that. We threw a lot of kids threw jokes around like that, saying that he was going to be the one to scoot up the school, but it turns out, everyone predicted it.
He is in custody, and we've already began to dissect his websites and the things that social media that he was on, and some of the things that have come to mind are very, very disturbing.
Some of the injured are still in critical condition in nearby hospitals, and many are struggling to understand why America has faced another mass shooting.
We want to show you some cell phone video that we just got in. This shows the shooter's arrest. You can see the officers rushing in, the gunman in that maroon shirt on the ground already there, and this picture shows his face. You get a better look at the guy. Law enforcement sources say he was trying to blend in with the other students who were fleeing the school. Students at the high school crawled under their desks, hid in the closets, and they did all of that as the sounds of gunfire echoed throughout the halls. They didn't know if that shooter was going to be bursting into their classroom next. Peter Bernard is joining us live at the Marriott Hotel. He is in Coral Springs with that story. Peter.
Hi there, Keith. This is a hotel where parents are being reunited with their students, and many had to wait long hours as law enforcement made sure the school was safe. Instead of hearing the final dismissal bell, students heard this horrific sound.
Oh my God!
Crazy. Everyone just yelling, screaming, crying.
At first, students assumed they were having a second fire drill. Then the muffled sounds of pops.
At first, we just waited like it was a normal fire drill, but then it just got really, it was like a zoo. Everyone just started running. I climbed the fence. Everyone climbed the fence. The exits were too small for people. It was chaos.
While Jonathan jumped a fence to escape the gunfire,
I was just crying the whole entire time. I was just so scared.
His girlfriend made a dash for safety.
I heard multiple gunshots, 6 or 7 gunshots, and I ran immediately to find a classroom.
But a classroom is not a shield against bullets.
I went into the closet with a couple of my friends because that's the safest to be.
And that's where they huddled for 2 hours until police came to escort them out, hands in the air, single file. Cops kept parents away, not knowing if the gunman was still on campus.
It was about 30 minutes. I couldn't get in touch with her, and it was the worst 30 minutes of my life. And then finally she texted us through, and then everything was fine.
Reunions had to wait at the Marriott as cops questioned students about the accused shooter. Frazzled looking after their ordeal, one by one, they returned to parents more than ready to put this day behind them. And both of those students we talked to have friends that got shot today. luckily, both are recovering. And you're looking at a live shot at this Marriott. As soon as that van gets out of the way, you're going to be able to see there are still parents here tonight, still students here tonight. They are being debriefed on what they saw, what they know about that accused gunman. As a matter of fact, there's some Broward County deputies right there. I'm going to step in, and they are keeping the media from going down there. It's kind of a private area. We are understanding of that. So still quite very active here at the Marriott in Coral Springs. Keith?
Can't imagine what those families are going through. Just grueling all the way around. Thank you. Peter Bernard reporting live from Coral Springs tonight.
Tonight, there is also heartache of a different kind. The young lives that witnessed mass murder. They heard the gunfire. They watched and they waited. One of them, the grandson of a Bay Area woman who shared with our Melanie Michael a story you will only see on 8. Mel?
Jen, good evening to you. This Tampa grandmother is still in shock tonight. She says she's grateful her grandson survived, but she is grieving the loss of so many others.
I just want to hold him and be so grateful that that little one who I used to hold and feed is now this 16-year-old big boy who will always be a baby to me.
Jack McLeod ran for his life Wednesday, desperate to find an open classroom, a place to hide from the gunfire, scared he would be next.
My stomach dropped to the floor.
When Jack's grandmother in Tampa heard the news, she was terrified. She couldn't believe it was happening. Her grandson, the light of her life, was in the line of fire, scared and locked in a classroom for more than 2 hours as his classmates were killed.
I ache for them. I do, I just ache for them.
In the end, this grandmother admits her heart is torn, her gratitude mixed with grief. Her grandson is alive, but so many others are not.
Right now on News Channel 8 at 11.
Florida's 2 key races neck and neck tonight. Andrew Gillum, as you just saw there, conceding to Ron DeSantis. Bill Nelson, Rick Scott still too close to call. A nail-biter of an election night 2018 here in the Sunshine State. Good evening. I'm Keith Cate.
I'm Jennifer Lee. Thank you for joining us this evening. We would like to go back and listen to more of what Democrat Andrew Gillum is saying in his concession speech to Ron DeSantis.
Get your lesson and one day bring that education home. She would say, bring it home for your little brother and your little sister who don't know what it is yet. Bring it home. A little bit more.
Andrew Gillum in his concession speech tonight, a remarkable campaign he ran, but Election Day did him in. Ron DeSantis is going to be the next governor of the state of Florida right now. But, of course, it has been down to the wire all night. We've been watching as these results come in, not only for the governor's race, but for the Senate race as well.
And talk about a race that is simply too close to call. There are a number of local races we're following for you, too. Those results are on the bottom of your screen. But tonight we have live crews all over the state covering those big races like the governor's race, like the Senate race, all those races you need to know about.
So let's begin with the governor's race right now. We'll have News Channel 8's Melanie Michael is joining us live from Orlando, where DeSantis' campaign is now celebrated. I'm sure they've heard the news by now, Mel.
They certainly have, guys. Good evening to you both. What a night this has been. With that concession speech, a lot of cheers in this room from DeSantis supporters. And I can tell you, this has been one of the biggest political pendulums, if you will, of the night. Gillum obviously going into this with a lead yesterday and today. And you could feel the tension in the room really early on in the night as supporters gathered to cheer on their candidate, Ron DeSantis, here at the Rosen Center live in Orlando. Then, as the night went on, one of the toughest races being watched all over America became one of the tightest margins, and that number got closer and closer, and now the supporters know that Ron DeSantis will be their next governor.
Shifting now to the other major race of this evening, that hotly contested U.S. Senate race, and talk about a nail-biter. This race may be going on for a few days.
Longtime Democratic Senator Bill Nelson fighting to keep his seat against current Florida Governor Rick Scott. Look at those results, Keith Cate, 50 to 50%. And this could come down to the actual percentage of voters. If it's a 0.5% margin here, that would trigger an automatic recount.
And if you get even closer than that, you get to a hand count. We'll see where this goes, but right now we have crews live with both the Scott and the Nelson campaigns tonight. We're going to begin with News Channel 8's Chip Osowski. He is live with Nelson supporters in Orlando. Chip.
Keith, an interesting development that just happened moments ago. A Nelson staffer came out and took to the podium and said that there were actually some voting machine issues in Broward County, and in Palm Beach County, somehow there were 100,000 votes for Rick Scott that may or may not be contested.
Bill Nelson needs those counties, Broward County, Miami-Dade County, Palm Beach County. Those are the counties with enough outstanding votes to maybe push him over the top. But according to NBC and the sources we're hearing, it's just not enough. So this really does come to the margin of error issue. Will we get to that? We shall see. But we know they're probably celebrating in Naples tonight, where supporters of Governor Rick Scott are hoping this lead that he has remains, and he is declared the winner.
That very narrow lead. They're holding on to every vote here. News Channel 8's Peter Bernard is at the La Playa Beach and Golf Resort, where I imagine the mood is pretty upbeat.
Jen and Keith, you're right there. Moments ago, the crowd erupted into "We want Rick, we want Rick." That's what they want tonight. They want him to come down and speak to this crowd. It has not happened yet. And as you know, the numbers for Rick Scott have been good into the early evening. They appear to be that way now, but it's just a narrow victory so far, but they haven't declared victory.
Tonight, an 8 on Your Side investigation. A local charity raising more than $5 million to train unemployed disabled veterans. In the last 5 years, it helped none. They ask you to donate your car to support a training program for unemployed veterans.
VetMade Industries, Inc. of Tampa claims it has a program to train veterans in woodworking. 8 on Your Side senior investigative reporter Steve Andrews found while millions were donated to this charity, the program that helps the veterans sat idle.
You know, the idea here was to teach veterans how to build Adirondack-style furniture, give them a skill. Its founder claims he just didn't have enough money to keep the program going. That didn't stop him from collecting millions in donations while the charity's doors were closed. People donated millions to a Tampa charity to help train unemployed disabled veterans. This is VetMade Industries, Inc., located on Cypress Street in Tampa. Our investigation found as donations from a generous public poured in, the woodworking shop at VetMade Industries stayed empty. The machinery sat idle, the doors closed tight. According to founder and executive director John Campbell, the whole program was on hold. How long has it been on hold?
It's going on 5 years that I call it a caretaker status.
Taking care of who? Tax records show that in 3 years, $5.5 million in donations flowed into VetMade Industries. During that same period, not one veteran received training.
0 goes to the veterans.
Army veteran Ken Cook was among the original volunteers at VetMade Industries in 2009. What he found was disappointing.
There was a highfalutin fancy program on paper, but the reality was that there wasn't any kind of organized training going on in any way, shape, or form.
The goal? Put veterans to work. How many veterans successfully completed VetMade's training program?
I don't have the tracking data to tell you.
What John Campbell does know is he ran out of money, put the program on hold, then found a source of revenue.
We contract with a professional fundraising company in California.
That for-profit company is called Just Donated.
We have been able to get $300,000 in the bank.
If this man is taking money away from veterans.
How do you justify that you're collecting money over the last 5 years, you banked about $300,000, and you haven't helped any veterans?
Mm-hmm. That's tough, and the optics are bad, but that's, unfortunately, that's the reality of having to build capital.
What about building trust? Just Donated promises charities a steady flow of donated vehicles. Just Donated's webpage stated 93% of funds donated to VetMade Industries go directly to the cause of helping our heroes. Is that true?
I will ask the president of that company.
VetMade's tax forms reveal 96% of the donations pay for expenses, most of it to Just Donated.
It makes me very angry.
The website does say 93% of the money goes directly to benefit our heroes. Am I missing something mathematically here?
No, once again, I perhaps have failed in my due diligence to read exactly what they're saying on their website representing us.
This is outrageous.
Daniel Borokoff is the president of Charity Watch, a nationally acclaimed nonprofit watchdog.
I would tell him to get out of the charity field because he's taking money away that could go to actually helping veterans. I mean, think about this. This $5 million over the last 3 years, that could be benefited veterans who really need help.
Since I started asking questions, the website that said 93% of the donations go directly to the cause of helping our heroes has all changed. Just Donated has not responded to my request for a comment, and the Florida Attorney General's office is now looking into this charity.
Now, an 8 on Your Side investigation. Foster kids, rides to nowhere.
Hillsborough County's Guardian Ad Litem director says she is shocked to hear about the failures we helped uncover in our foster care investigation, and now she is taking action. The Guardian Ad Litem office plays a key role in protecting foster kids from the kind of problems that we first exposed last week.
And now they are taking steps to help solve those problems. Investigator Mark Douglas tells us that director is shocked by what she's finding out. Mark.
Stacey and Keith, this is a professional guardian who represents kids every day in the judicial system, and she sees it all. But like many others, she's stunned by what we exposed and what she continues to learn about the treatment of these foster kids by the system that is supposed to protect them.
It's not okay. It's definitely not okay.
That was Guardian Ad Litem Director Tabitha Lambert's first reaction last week when we showed her video of foster kids kept in cars in a gas station parking lot. Those kids spent day after day in that parking lot instead of school, therapy, or a foster home. 1 week later, Hillsborough's largest foster care provider has been fired, and DCF has ordered a top-to-bottom review by a team of outside experts.
So I definitely think that the whole thing has opened the eyes of really the entire community.
Yesterday, Lambert was among dozens of people who packed the Children's Board for a 2-hour forum on foster care.
I think the most shocking part of yesterday's meeting was when the former case manager spoke up.
That caseworker is Sharday Moore. She was the whistleblower who first told us last week her foster care bosses at YFA and YFA's bosses at Eckerd turned her into a scapegoat, and she said it again yesterday.
I was terminated in a sense for doing my job.
But I do apologize if you feel like the company retaliated against you.
Lambert was stunned to hear Eckerd's top manager, Loretta Shirley, admit Tuesday that she didn't know foster kids were crammed into caseworkers' cars in this Wawa parking lot, that they were missing school and appeared to end up in different foster homes, sometimes in different counties. Every night we watched them. Either Eckerd knew what was going on and failed to act, or Eckerd didn't know what was going on. Is either one of those a good situation?
No, our kids deserve better.
Lambert tells me her staff is now making sure all of those foster kids who spent their days at that gas station or without services in the community now have guardian ad litems to represent them. She's also on the search committee looking for a new foster care provider and will share her concerns with that DCF review team when it gets here.
It was a mass murder he swears he never committed. Tommy Ziegler was sentenced to death by a judge who overruled a jury in 1976. Now, a judge could do that back then. Today, that's unconstitutional. But what else was allowed back then, like jury intimidation and withholding evidence, has kept 8 on Your Side and others digging into this case for decades.
It is a frightening thought.
They got a conviction. And here I am stuck.
The rush to judgment that sent Tommy Ziegler to death row may have kept the real killer on the street.
I didn't do it. Look at the evidence that we present.
Private investigator Lynn Marie Carty looked at the evidence.
It's ridiculous. This is like ridiculous to me at this point.
Then she uncovered more and put it online for the world to see.
And the prosecution hid so many key elements from the defense that the jury was not able to hear.
The prosecution never allowed jurors to hear testimony that would have created reasonable doubt. Today, we know so much more. Claims of a biased judge, unethical conduct, and jury manipulation. The irregularities in this case are mind-blowing.
Christmas Eve 1975, Ziegler's furniture store, Winter Garden, Florida. Tommy Ziegler calls for help. He's been shot. 4 others, including his wife, murdered. Investigators zero in on Tommy, never bothering to look for anyone else.
You're 73.
And I feel every day of it.
Tommy has spent 42 years on death row, agonizing over how he got here. A successful businessman with no history of violence, railroaded, say his attorneys, by cops, prosecutors, and a judge who should have recused himself. No way a jury looking at all the facts today would find him guilty.
8 years you've been at this.
8 years.
You think you'll ever stop?
How could I stop? The guy is innocent, and I'm positive.
But so far, Tommy has failed to convince the state to set him free.
All the evidence pointed to Tommy Ziegler.
Even with new evidence and DNA testing that disproves what the prosecution presented at trial, the state still wants Tommy to die.
He will die on death row one way or the other.
Jeff Ashton, now a circuit court judge, fought to keep Ziegler on death row, claiming he killed for insurance money. Another fact that's been refuted, but none of it seems to matter.
They don't want this case back. They know what this case is going to give them. They don't want it back.
Florida has wrongfully convicted and exonerated 27 death row inmates, more than any other state. Many believe Tommy Ziegler should be the 28th.
I can't stop thinking about this guy. If he dies in there, it is going to be just a tragedy to the state of Florida and to the justice system.
For the last 4 years, the VA treated this Navy veteran for a disc and arthritis problem, a deadly misdiagnosis. It's not a disc issue, and it's not osteoarthritis. It is stage 4 cancer.
Renal cell cancer that metastasized, and it is spreading everywhere. According to Target A senior investigative reporter Steve Andrews, the VA at Bay Pines missed that.
As you can imagine, this family is outraged and distraught, because they know what lies ahead is not good. Navy veteran Lonnie Kilpatrick is too sick, weak, and in too much pain to get out of bed. For the last 4 years, the VA told him his back pain was herniated discs and osteoarthritis. His wife, Sheila.
They missed the cancer.
Lonnie and his family recently learned he has stage 4 renal cell cancer.
I went from having osteoarthritis to having metastasized bone cancer all over my body. How the hell do you do that, you know?
Daughter Carrie is a nurse case manager.
He saw every doctor they sent him to. How did they miss that?
Lonnie received a heart transplant in 2010. The VA also found what it called a cyst on his kidney. It was no cyst.
Cancer was there in 2010.
The VA performed a surgical procedure in 2014.
The guy told me I was cancer-free, that there was no signs of active cancer.
Back pain persisted.
Couldn't even stand hunched over. Like I'm walking, looking at the floor.
Records show Lonnie called the VA repeatedly.
He should have been getting CAT scans to make sure it hadn't metastasized.
No CAT scans.
They kept giving him hydrocodone.
By January, Lonnie had lost 40 pounds. The VA doctor ordered a CAT scan.
They wanted a CT scan, what they called STAT. They scheduled it for 3 weeks out.
A STAT CAT scan means today or tomorrow.
They took him to Florida Hospital.
And they came back and said, he's got cancer. And it's everywhere.
Lonnie even said to me the other day, he said, they signed my death certificate. The VA signed my death certificate by not treating me for cancer, by not checking me.
You know, you're going to lose him. And that could have been prevented if the VA had followed up.
Now, to add insult to injury, the VA has fought the Kilpatricks every step of the way, paying for Lonnie's diagnosis and treatment outside of Bay Pines. And we're working with some folks to see if we can help the family receive some VA disability benefits that Lonnie might be entitled to. This is just a horrible
sad,
story.
Very sad.
Yeah. For a change, veteran Lonnie Kilpatrick's family got some good news.
Words can't even say how much we appreciate what you've done.
After 8 years of delays and denial, the VA reversed its course. It approved Lonnie's claim that exposure to Agent Orange left him 100% disabled.
I was like, it's finally time they do something right.
For years, the VA got it wrong. Its doctors diagnosed Lonnie's back pain as arthritis-related. Rushed to a civilian hospital in agony, he and his family were stunned to learn the pain was really stage 4 kidney cancer.
Medically, they have misdiagnosed him. Everything they could have done wrong, the VA has done wrong.
Stationed on Guam during the Vietnam War, Lonnie claims his work near airfields exposed him to the toxic defoliant Agent Orange.
I got extremely sick.
Doctors diagnosed Lonnie in 2010 with ischemic heart disease, a condition linked to Agent Orange exposure. He received a heart transplant. For 8 years, the VA delayed, then this month denied Lonnie's claim his heart condition is Agent Orange related.
They've abandoned me and they've abandoned everybody else.
I contacted Congressman Gus Bilirakis about this case. He asked the Department of Defense to open Lonnie's classified records, and there it was.
It was definitely clear that he worked in a particular area where Agent Orange was definitely sprayed.
He requested the VA reverse its denial. It did.
You know, I mean, it's good work, man. Good work. Thank you for contacting me.
Oh, hey.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for carrying the ball. These new benefits allow Sheila to stay where she belongs, at Lonnie's bedside.
I thank you, and God bless all of y'all.
Well, a tragic and sad update to a Target 8 story tonight. A Bay Area veteran that we helped win his long fight for benefits with the VA loses his battle with cancer. With family at his bedside, 67-year-old Navy veteran Lonnie Kilpatrick died this weekend.
The VA had determined that Lonnie's back pain was arthritis. Turned out it was stage 4 cancer. Target 8 senior investigator Steve Andrews was told as Lonnie drifted away that he asked his family to help other veterans. His dying wish, I guess.
Yeah, really. You know, one of his daughters actually recorded some of her dad's last words. And as Keith said, as he drifted away, he told his family, make this count. Use his case, his death, to open the door for others.
We are having some local effects. You can see the higher tides we've been talking about the past couple of days. Watch your local high tide. This is Crystal River right now. The water going over the seawalls and, of course, headed toward high tide about 6:15 there in Crystal River. Here's a look at the storm Hurricane Michael. The landfall was critical because where the eye is located, you have onshore winds to the right of the eye and offshore winds to the left. It makes all the difference. And a lot of Panama City Beach did not see those onshore winds. Made landfall near Mexico City Beach and then points east of that. That's where you get the strong onshore winds and, of course, all the storm surge that comes along with that. So a look at the system, as you can see here, moving off to the northeast, 125-mile-per-hour winds. Now a Category 3 storm was around the Mariana area. Now northeast of Mariana, moving very quickly at 16 miles per hour. So before long, we'll be in southwest Georgia, but still a very clearly defined eye. A lot of very heavy rain and still some extremely strong wind gusts on the western side of the system itself. So this is still very much a dangerous hurricane and will be as it moves across Georgia. Keep in mind we have a Category 3 hurricane moving into Georgia at the moment. That forecast track will continue to take it across south of Atlanta, across central Georgia, weakening to a tropical storm, but still with some effects with heavy rain and very high winds. The cone gets thinner because the storm is moving so quickly and will emerge out Friday morning into the Atlantic and potentially strengthen just a little bit more.
Holding the powerful accountable.
Governor, the DEP keep you in the dark? Is the state attorney's office going to enforce the law?
And getting results. Steve Andrews is Target 8.
She was on the verge of losing it all because the VA refused to budge. Well, tonight, Target 8 gets results.
She lost her husband, she lost her home, and the VA told her any benefits it might provide were at least 5 years away.
Feeling outnumbered and outgunned by the government bureaucracy, she enlisted the help of Target 8 senior investigative reporter Steve Andrews. Steve?
Josh, this Marine's widow was absolutely entitled to benefits for which her husband applied. So that meant she wasn't getting anything without a fight. Last time I told you about Tara Craver, she stood outside the VA at Bay Pines holding a sign that read, Camp Lejeune Widow. Today, she carried a big arrangement of flowers with a thank you banner for WFLA.
When you need help, she's on your side. Better call Bacon.
Investigator Shannon Bacon promised to check up on Pasco County officials to make sure they kept their word about extending a sidewalk so that a blind man can walk safely. Our camera was there when the man and his service dog nearly fell into the street as he walked along there. And when he needed help, he knew he'd better call Bacon. It took a few months, but there is some progress to report tonight, Shannon.
There are, and this man, Mike Keach, he tried for 8 years on his own to do this, and county officials promised us when we looked into it in February that they would make this a priority and that the sidewalk work would be done by July, and I'm happy to report that they kept that promise.
I cannot say enough. This is just incredibly fantastic.
All Mike Keach wanted was to walk around his Pasco County neighborhood safely, like everyone else. And now, with this brand new sidewalk along Fox Hollow Drive, he can.
Good evening. Welcome to Surviving the Storm, a Storm Teammate special. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Derby. We're coming to you from Tampa Bay Watch on South Pinellas Estuary. Tonight, we'll show you some practical ways to help you prepare for hurricanes that will help save property and lives. Tampa Bay Watch is a living laboratory where scientists and volunteers study the estuary ecosystem and the role climate and weather, especially severe weather such as hurricanes, affected. The complex is located at the southern end of Pinellas County on the Pinellas Bayway and along the waters between Tampa Bay and the eastern Gulf of Mexico. The nonprofit's mission: to restore and stabilize sensitive ecosystem damaged during a hurricane.
When you have shoreline areas that don't have these natural communities, the whole brunt of the waves and the wind comes ashore and can cause a lot more destruction.
For most of us, it's easy to take for granted the freedoms and opportunities we are born into. Well, there is one young man in Tampa who's Cubano, who took those chances for a better future and with hard work and discipline earned his way into one of the most prestigious universities in the country. Now, as he blazes a new trail for himself, he's also aware of the footprint he's leaving behind.
If you see Carlos Garcia Perez in the hallway, it's easy to see he's a superstar around here.
Yeah, bro, come over here.
Freshly graduated, he won't soon be forgotten. His picture is displayed in a glass case for all to know. Carlos is Gaither High's newest valedictorian.
I mean, it was a big goal, but it was a goal that when I was up at 1, 2, even 3 a.m. and I was doing my work, I knew, that's what I was doing it for.
Yeah, I heard this story when I was a child. The names are Harry T. and Harriet V. Moore, and a place of honor has been built to show their accomplishments of their lives and the tragic circumstances of their deaths.
Before Martin, before Medgar, there were the Moores, Harry T. and Harriet V. Moore. The Moores were married civil rights activists from Mims, Florida, a tiny town along the Space Coast. It's just east of Orlando. On December 25th, 1951, someone placed sticks of dynamite underneath the front porch of their modest shotgun home.
That was the bomb that was heard around the world.
Bucks bonus starts right now.
I've been fired before and I've been hired before, and I know this: if you look yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and know you did everything you could, then I got no problem holding my head up.
Yeah, Dirk Cutter is out. As the Bucks head coach, he was let go tonight by the Bucks just hours after the team's 5-11 finish to the season. Oh boy. Welcome to the Bucks Bonus Show. Dan Lucas and Eddie Sabo with you. Scott Reynolds of PewterReport.com is going to join us here in the studio shortly. And the speculation, Andy, it's over. The Bucks, they made their move quickly. They made it tonight.
Dirk Cutter was part of a meeting with team ownership in the hours after Sunday's loss to the Atlanta Falcons. And before Sunday Night Football even kicked off, the Glazers had released a statement informing us that Cutter had been relieved of his duties.
Yeah, they're acting fast. And I'm just going to read this statement for you here. We sincerely appreciate the hard work and commitment shown by Dirk over the past several years. Working with Dirk has been a pleasure, and we wish him and his family all the best in the future.
It's Countdown to Daytona.
Hello from Daytona International Speedway. This is Countdown to Daytona. I'm Dan Lucas. It's hard to believe this is the 60th running of the Daytona 500, yet it's still the race drivers want to win the most. It's also the beginning of a long run for a championship, and every driver that starts here has high hopes.
When you win this race, they call you a Daytona 500 champion for the rest of your career.
Martin Truex Jr. is the defending Monster Energy NASCAR Cup champion, but he's never won the Daytona 500, and that bothers him.
You've been close, heartbreaker in 2016, and even last year being right there at the end and running out of gas.
This is the only sport where its so-called Super Bowl kicks off the season. And there is not a driver at this level that has not dreamed about victory lane at Daytona.
But Team USA won not one, but 2 medals yesterday, bringing the total to 12.
That's right. Let's send it over to News Channel 8's Annie Sabo. She is live tonight for us in South Korea. Hey there, Annie.
Hello, Jen. An event that I really haven't talked that much about yet is the bobsled competition. The U.S. women will take to the track today for their final day of competition. 3-time Olympian and 2-time medalist Alana Myers-Taylor and her partner, Olympic rookie Lauren Gibbs, currently sit in 2nd place heading into this last and final round.
Right now on News Channel 8 at 11.
Historic. Hurricane Michael is the worst storm that the Florida Panhandle has ever seen.
Look at this. This is nature's fury.
Catastrophic. Deadly.
Devastation. This is total devastation.
Hurricane Michael has moved out of Florida, but the process to rebuild the Panhandle in the wake of this awful disaster is only just beginning.
Floridians are strong. Floridians are resilient. We will recover, and we'll do it together.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Lee.
And I'm Keith Kate. Thank you for joining us tonight. We have been keeping a close watch on this Hurricane Michael since it formed. And tonight we are getting a firsthand look at the widespread devastation that it caused. With most roads in the Panhandle impassable right now, the best way to see just how bad the damage is from high above with a drone. Just look at this. Roofs ripped off, building after building destroyed.
The images are absolutely incredible. The bird's eye view, stunning. And on the ground, we continue to see more devastation.
And we have live team coverage tonight from the Panhandle all the way down to Anna Maria Island. We're going to begin with NBC's Wendy Woolfolk, who is live in Tallahassee right now.
We've seen widespread damage and massive power outages, and that's likely to get worse as Michael moves north.
Hurricane Michael leaves behind a path of devastation.
Utter destruction. Utter destruction. As I said, there's going to be a lot of good people hurting.
Hurt by the most powerful storm ever to hit the Florida Panhandle.
And I'm trying to clear the roadway for the emergency vehicles to get through.
Every small effort crucial for what will be a monstrous task ahead.
We will be sending help from air, land, and sea. This includes thousands of responders for power restoration, medical search and rescue, law enforcement, food and water distribution.
Critical resources in the aftermath of a catastrophic storm surge. Destructive winds up to 155 miles per hour that ripped off roofs and tore down power lines. And flooding that left neighborhoods under feet of water. But Michael isn't finished.
North Carolina is staring down another powerful hurricane. Less than a month after Hurricane Florence battered our state.
A storm the entire Southeast not likely to soon forget.
Hurricane Michael has already claimed 1 life. Florida's governor says now the focus is on search, rescue, and recovery here. That's the latest in Tallahassee. I'm Wendy Woolfolk. Now back to you.
Hurricane Michael's fierce winds and life-threatening storm surge left behind some extensive damage, as you've seen.
News Channel 8's Corey Davis rode out the storm in Panama City Beach and headed out tonight to get a first-hand look at that devastation.
Right now we are traveling around Panama City with crew members and volunteers with America's Cajun Navy, known for rescuing people. They're telling us that they've already seen houses without roofs and flattened homes as well. The damage after Hurricane Michael around Panama City is disturbing. Power lines down everywhere, scattered around like matchsticks. We hopped on with America's Cajun Navy, the group in town from Lafayette, Louisiana, hoping to help anyone they can. The view from their military-grade vehicle, unbelievable. A Firestone auto shop destroyed. Within minutes, we came across the first person. And then came more, this time a couple with 2 young boys and a friend on a walk more than 14 miles long.
I'm very, very blessed. I'm very thankful. We've been walking long ways. We've been in water up to our waist. It's been crazy out there.
They say part of the roof at the shelter they were staying at ripped off.
It's very bad out there. We just left the shelter, and it's no power. Everything's just, it's real bad.
Then we caught a glimpse of the American flag. Jordan Cohn carrying it after riding out the storm at an animal shelter with his cats and now checking on family.
I was walking here and I saw the flag on the ground and I was like, well, that's not all right. So I picked it up and then people started kind of honking.
And he made people feel much better. They need anything positive to cling to. One last good deed. The crew moved more debris, clearing the way for those trying to get back home. In all, these guys helped more than 22 people so far, and they plan to keep pushing on in days to come. In Panama City, I'm Corey Davis.
And this is how powerful Michael's nearly Category 5 winds were. Just about every single window of the First Federal Bank in Panama City is blown out. Remarkable. The damage in Panama City is also heartbreaking. You can see pieces of homes stripped from their structures. Lots of destruction down this stretch of roadway.
We want to check in right now with Storm Team 8 Chief Meteorologist Steve Jervy, who has an update for us on Michael, which is still out there.
It still is in the central part of Georgia. Some local effects here. We're seeing some stronger wind gusts as a result of the storm here in the Bay Area. Winds are coming in here from the south, so there still are some small effects. Hurricane Michael, though, has 75-mile-per-hour winds. Is still holding on to hurricane status. Still somewhat of a tornado threat. Still have tornado watches in place for the eastern parts of Georgia. And also you can see how the line of showers continues to move to the northeast. So the stronger wind gusts are still here across the central part of Georgia. Macon, Warner Robins, this is all moving in that direction, but drying out on the southern side. Still have some strong wind gusts, but the advancing section of the storm is probably the most dangerous at this point. A look at the forecast track here for the system. It is a Category 1 storm now. It's traveled about 160 miles since it made landfall, with 155-mile-per-hour winds shortly after 2 o'clock today, and moving rapidly off to the northeast through South Carolina, North Carolina, hopefully weakening along the way. Hate to see more damage in North Carolina, especially since what they've been through this year. The storm final track is very close to the United Kingdom, so it's a very long way away, caught up fast in those upper level winds. We'll have more and look at the forecast too. Some drier air locally coming up.
Meantime, in Citrus and Hernando counties, most residents there are breathing a sigh of relief.
They certainly are. Hurricane Michael has passed, but it may be a little too early to say there was no damage. News Channel 8 Chip Osowski joins us now live from Pete's Pier in Crystal River, where the water is slowly retreating back into the Gulf, right?
Slowly was the key word. Actually, when we arrived here just a few hours ago, the water was all the way up to my ankles here in this parking lot. Then the wind shifted directions, and now, as you can see, the water is finally on its way out. This is Pete's Pier in Crystal River. You'll have to trust me on that one because the pier itself is still underwater.
Well, I actually work here during the weekends, and I wanted to come out and see what the damage was.
Michael Radford brought his family to see what, if any, damage Michael left behind. Hours after the storm passed, the parking lot was still underwater, and the boats appeared to be floating dangerously close to that parking lot.
Surprised? I am kind of sort of surprised. Yeah, I didn't expect to get this. I mean, because we was only going to get brushed by the storm.
In Hernando County, several streets, including Pine Island Drive, remained underwater and closed to non-local traffic. But most people who live in this neck of the woods say that's the price you pay for living in paradise.
I got hit with no-name storm real good back, was 93, 94. I got 3 feet of water in the house then. So it's, once you get it a couple of times and get water, then, you know, like I say, you get used to it.
And at this hour, no reports of major damage in Citrus or Hernando counties, but that could easily change first thing tomorrow morning as the sun comes up. Reporting live in Crystal River, I'm Chip Osowski, News Channel 8.
Citrus County schools are closed tomorrow for students and for staff. Schools in the area are being used as shelters. We still don't have word on when school will reopen.
Over the past several weeks, we've talked a lot about this red tide crisis, and many people were hoping that the Hurricane Michael would help get rid of the red tide algae bloom that's been killing all those fish, tons of fish across our area. In fact.
Tonight, we in fact are finding out that may not actually be the case. News Channel 8's Peter Bernard is on Reddington Beach, where he's discovered a large fish kill.
The smell along Reddington Beach is awful. It's the smell that beachgoers have come to dread. It's the smell of red tide. Hundreds of dead fish are lining the shore near Gulf Boulevard and 160th Street. Like we've seen many times before, they appear to be victims of the red tide outbreak. There are small fish and large fish that are washed up to the embankments. We spent the evening just up the coast in Clearwater, where Hurricane Michael is still posing a threat. Heavy surf and the possibility of rip currents has the red flags flying on Clearwater Beach. Hurricane Michael is still stirring up trouble at this famous Gulfside destination. While some came to snap a picture to document the historic hurricane's effects, others chose to test out their skills.
There's only so many days you can get break in Tampa, so gotta capitalize on those.
With lifeguards trying to keep track of heads in the water, surfers tried to catch the unusually large waves.
Oh, it's rough. Kind of scary. Came back in, so I don't want to get stuck out there too long.
An occasional downpour emptied most of the beach, but most returned to witness the effects from the storm.
The waves aren't that crazy, it's just they keep dragging us right. Before we know it, we start over there, we're by the pier.
Concerns about storm surge are not completely gone. Each high tide brings another round of worry. When the lifeguards went home, Clearwater police patrolled the shore, trying to make sure everyone who got in the water got out. It's possible these fish simply washed ashore from out in the Gulf, or it could be that the red tide is now in full tilt mode because of Hurricane Michael. On Reddington Beach, Peter Bernard, News Channel 8.
Manatee County dodged the brunt of Hurricane Michael, but officials still warn folks to stay away from Anna Maria Island as that storm pushed through.
News Channel 8's Victoria Price continues our team coverage tonight to show us how not everyone heeded that warning.
Hey, good evening. Rough surf, strong winds, and high tides have officials calling beach conditions here very dangerous. Parts of Anna Maria Island saw flooding both today and yesterday, but before the storm surge rolled in, the tourists did too.
Perfect timing.
Hurricane Michael making for a last-minute, unexpected guest for the families vacationing on Anna Maria Island.
It's incredible to watch.
The island on a storm surge watch Wednesday as the monster storm pummeled the Gulf Coast. Its normally serene beaches were anything but, with white-capped waves crashing onto shore.
The beaches were just worn away last night. That was amazing. Scary, but amazing. We stayed back.
Diane Marsh and her husband are visiting from Kentucky and say they're trying to make the most of it. They briefly set off in kayaks before a change of heart brought them back to shore.
And we're only here till Friday, so we're just taking our moments when we get them.
Corey Killian has lived here most of his life and doesn't think the storm scared too many visitors away.
It seems about the same than last year.
The island providing a front row seat to witness Michael's fury from a comfortable distance.
To me, it's very exciting to be able to enjoy it and still feel safe.
Anna Maria Elementary was closed today because of flooding concerns, but we're told school will be back to normal as of tomorrow. Reporting from Anna Maria Island, Victoria Price, News Channel 8.
Tonight, the Bay Area is ready to help the Panhandle recover from Hurricane Michael. A task force of 72 first responders from Hillsborough County Fire Rescue, Tampa Fire Rescue, and St. Petersburg Fire Rescue are headed to Apalachicola and the St. Marks River area. They're planning to help with search and rescue operations there. The deployment could last up to 2 weeks.
We have much more coverage of Hurricane Michael ahead.
Coming up next, we'll check in on Tallahassee to see how the state's capital city is faring after the monster storm tore through there.
And here's a live look at Michael on the satellite right now. Storm Team 8 is working around the clock to help keep you informed about Hurricane Michael. We'll have another update from Steve Jervey in just a few minutes.
Here's another look at Hurricane Michael on radar right now. It is still a very strong storm. Your Storm Team 8 forecast is just a few minutes away.
Nearly 390,000 people are without power in the Florida Panhandle right now. Search and rescue teams are expected to be out much of the evening surveying the damage. Our Capitol Bureau reporter Jake Stofan continues our team coverage tonight from Tallahassee.
There are more than 60,000 people here in the capital city without power tonight. You can see why behind me. There are trees down everywhere. We caught up with Mayor Andrew Gillum as he and we were out surveying damage. He says it's going to be a while before they know how long it will take to get the power back on. Is it as bad as you thought it was going to be?
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, it could certainly have been a lot worse, but really damage and impact depends on the eye of the beholder. If you're in this neighborhood, in this community, you don't know if you fared so well. We've been in various parts of our city. We've seen a lot of down trees, a lot of down lines. Our utility crews, the one I'm in right now, are now doing observations. They're walking the lines and driving the lines and also driving our transmission lines to get an assessment of what the impact is to the system. I'm waiting on that report because that will tell us a lot. That will tell us about how quickly we can get back up and going.
So you don't know that yet?
We don't know that yet.
Well, Tallahassee appeared to dodge a very big bullet. Counties south of us did not fare so well. We'll know more about the damage there when tours can be made tomorrow. Reporting from the state capitol, Mike Vasalinda, News Channel 8.
And tonight, President Donald Trump says he is closely monitoring Hurricane Michael's impact on Florida. The president says he hopes to visit Florida's Panhandle region early next week to tour the damage. Several states are at risk for damage. Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, and Virginia may also face widespread power outages. Florida's U.S. senators are confident that FEMA is equipped to handle the situation.
So I believe there's sufficient funds to get us through the next few months. Part of it there'll have to be an assessment of what the damages were.
There are 2 military bases in Alabama and Georgia that they are pre-positioned so they can get in quickly. So FEMA is prepared.
Both senators say they will be in the Panhandle over the next few days.
Now, Max Defender 8, the radar built for Tampa Bay weather, and your Storm Team 8 forecast with Chief Meteorologist Steve Jervey.
Still feeling the effects on Max Defender 8 from Hurricane Michael on the live sweep. Very light showers are moving rapidly off the Gulf. Very light stuff. These are not big thunderstorms. Brief passing showers, maybe a few wind gusts as well. They're all over Citrus, Hernando, Pasco, through Pinellas County as well. So a little passing shower like this, that's certainly possible coming off the Gulf. And a few light showers too, kind of drying up there, it looks like, into sections of Highlands County. So Michael turned out to be a historic storm in terms of pressure, the 3rd lowest pressure for a landfalling U.S. storm. Labor Day, Camille, Andrew, all Category 5 storms. This very close to Category 5 strength. Of course, a lot of assessment will go on. So yes, this was an extremely dangerous storm today and continues to cause problems for sections of Georgia. It's rolling off to the northeast at 20 miles per hour, very fast forward speed. Of course, deprived of moisture coming from the Gulf or a little bit from the Atlantic too. You can see this little rain band tapping into some of that moisture, the warmer waters of the Atlantic. So barely hurricane status. We hope it continues to weaken. Still, though, causing a lot of rain and wrapping a lot of those rain bands into the Atlanta metro area. Look at Hurricane Michael and the movement again. 75-mile-per-hour winds. Category 1 storm will be a tropical storm before too long and then move rapidly out into the Atlantic. Our next high tides, want to go over this because we'll still watch them, but I think we may have had our higher high tides, but the winds still coming on shore. We'll still have to watch, especially in Crystal River and Hudson here coming up in the early morning hours, then again in the afternoon. Clearwater Beach at 12:46 a.m., then again in the afternoon in St. Pete at 4:56, but as I mentioned, diminishing. But with that onshore flow, and especially if the winds are still up a little bit, it can be stronger. Bayshore at 5 p.m. in the afternoon, upcoming tides 2:28 a.m. at Port Manatee, around 1 o'clock in the morning at Anna Marie, and then farther south in Sarasota 1:31 a.m. and in Venice 12:39 a.m. The winds are south. They'll eventually be southwest and west. At noon, 88 degrees, temperature of 89 degrees. A bit more sunshine for tomorrow, it looks like, but we are trending drier, including the kind of drier that actually comes with lower humidity. 81 degrees in St. Pete, 81 Clearwater, 79 now Lakeland, also Winter Haven, 81 in Bradenton, 82 in Venice. And, of course, the wind speeds, you saw this a couple of moments ago. Still some decent gusts, but persistent winds coming in at 15 in Clearwater, 12 in St. Petersburg, 13 in Lakeland. RPM forecast computer model Thursday morning, still breezy, still humid to start the day, maybe a few passing downpours, kind of like we're seeing now, but we'll slowly start to dry out here as we work drier air into the area once this storm clears the southeast. Thursday afternoon, quick moving downpours, breezy onshore winds, and again we see Friday morning drier air begins to move in with some patchy clouds into the region. Friday afternoon, a stray shower in southern spots, but the rain chances are definitely dropping over the coming days. Water vapor imagery kind of tells the story too. Red is a very nice place to be, and this is very dry air aloft, and you can see how quickly it's pushing into the northern part of the state of Florida. Friday especially, much drier air mass is being pulled in behind Michael, and that will set up much drier conditions at the surface as well. Lower humidity reflected in our 8-day forecast. This is really nice stuff. Locally, obviously, we're dealing with the storm, but getting some refreshing air on the backside of the storm, especially for Saturday. Should set up a nice weekend. Warm temperatures, upper 80s, but the rain chances, we just removed them from the forecast because of the drier conditions in place. Rain chances will be back a little bit as we head into next week, but nothing too extreme as we're starting to get into mid part of October, head very quickly to the dry season in November. We'll look forward to that. This storm is one that made history, strongest recorded since 1851 landfalling storm in the Florida Panhandle, third most intense in terms of air pressure on record.
We're going to remember this one for quite a while.
We will, and we'll get more once the sun comes up tomorrow, unfortunately.
Sure. Thank you.
Coming up next in sports, hockey will be played at Tampa Bay tomorrow. We'll tell you which player will be making his debut.
Plus, Taco Tuesday was pretty memorable for one member of the Bucs offense. We'll tell you who next.
And the Tampa Bay Heart Walk coming up November 10th at Raymond James Stadium. This year, Cane's Furniture matches the first $50,000 we raise. To join Stacy's team or make a donation, go to WFLA.com/heartwalk.
After a horrific performance, to quote head coach Dirk Cutter in Chicago, the Bucs will face division rival Atlanta on Sunday. And this defense has had an additional week to fix whatever happened against the Bears. And Jameis Winston will start for the first time this season. As we reported on Wednesday, offensive guard Ali Marpet signed a 6-year extension with the team. This would put him in Tampa Bay through the 2023 season. Marpet spoke about his major $54 million deal for the first time today, which included a rather humble celebration full of tacos.
It's phenomenal. My brother killed it, so I got to celebrate with my roommates, my girlfriend. It was a really good time. No other way I'd rather celebrate than Taco Tuesday.
I think anytime you can get guys on their second contract, you know, you draft them, and if they get a second contract, that means they panned out. They played well, and you know, you're happy to see guys earn their money.
How many tacos could you buy with $54 million? Well, on the injury front, tight end O.J. Howard looking good on the practice field. He suffered an MCL strain in Chicago and was supposed to miss 1 to 2 games. Did not look that way today. Defensive tackle Bo Allen also returned to practice. He hasn't played since week 2 against the Eagles after suffering a foot injury. From the NFL to the NHL, after a 4-day break, the Lightning just looking forward to playing their second game of the season. Game 1 against the Panthers lacked the high-scoring Bolts offense we're used to seeing. Only one shorthanded goal scored in that one, but Tyler Johnson is expected to return to the lineup against Vancouver tomorrow. He's actually going to shift to wing. Braden Point will play center on this line, a change aimed at spurring offensive momentum, and Johnson feels good to go against the Canucks.
Yeah, I feel good. You know, we've had a lot of good practices, a lot of hard practices, and you know, we've been doing a lot of different game-like situations. So I might have a little rust. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But you know, I'm playing with some really good players that are going to help me out, and hopefully we get back into it right away.
Puck drop, guys, tomorrow, 7:30. Bolts Canucks. He's ready to go. Thundertastic.
Ready? All right. I'm glad you said it. Couldn't have said it better myself.
We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Go Bolts. And a final check on the weather, Steve.
Well, I will show you the radar so you can kind of see what's happening here with the storm, what's left of Hurricane Michael, which is still a Category 1 hurricane. Tornado watches are still up for that area, and they will continue to be here in the early morning hours as the storm is kind of wrapping up and creating some very heavy rain, as well as some pretty strong wind gusts. And you can't rule out a tornado here either in these rain bands. It's amazing, guys, to think that this made landfall before 2 o'clock this afternoon is still a hurricane in the central part of Georgia. Came with a lot of momentum, a lot of power, and despite the fact that it's moving so fast and covered so much distance, it's still a hurricane.
Yeah, and we're still going to have live coverage of Hurricane Michael overnight on our News Channel 8 Facebook page, just as a reminder.
That's going to do it for us. Have a great night.
Good night.